Yo, what is going on, legends? Welcome to Beyond the Tape, a podcast where we talk to people doing rad things in the bike industry. This episode is another tech talk where we're joined from Mick Williams from WRP, and we've got Lockie, the bike guru. He knows everything, essentially. Best way to put it. Anyway, this intro is already going terrible, so let's jump straight into it. Before we get into this episode, though, let's talk about some supporters. We've got Trek Bikes Australia. Those guys are absolutely killing it. Love my new Fuel EX bike that does everything, and that is not a lie. Frank Mountain Bike Apparel, man, their kit is so good. I just got some of their fresh designs, and we've got some samples of some stuff coming along that you might like. Shred Bike Care have been keeping my bike clean. It is so dusty here at the moment. So the waterless wash is coming out and acting a dream. Fist handwear breezer gloves are keeping my hands protected while cool. I'm looking so forward to my next trip down in Tassie with Taylor Trails, Tasmania, where they'll take care of everything for me and I just fly down there with my bike. We've got Lead Out Sports, the best and one of the main sponsors of the Tech Talks. These guys offer some of the best tools on the market, from Pedro's, from Elevation Wilco. You've got Abbey Bike Tools. There's a bunch of stuff there. They're amazing. Dirt Surfer are keeping all the dust out of my eyes and offer these stanchions with their custom 100% recycled and recyclable mud guards, capped out caps, keep my bars attached to my bike with the custom Beyond the Tape top cap. Available at all good stores, including our web store. And Oakley, keeping the dust and sun out of my eyes. Absolutely love their stuff. Anyway, been trying to keep these intros short, sharp, and cheerful. So, jump to this episode. We talk about the World Cup. We talk about steering dampers. We talk a bunch of crap about a bunch of things. So, I really hope you enjoy it. Any feedback, any questions, jump over to Instagram. But as per usual, before you jump in, grab a beer, grab a water, grab a wine, grab whatever makes you happy, and enjoy this podcast.
That I find it on a different type of topic. I find that is it just me, or is it like such a US thing? Like, oh, I turned pro at 16. I've always wondered, like, what defines turning pro? I mean, to me, just personally, I don't, like, this doesn't have to be for everyone. To me, like, turning pro would be getting paid to do it for a living.
100%.
So I feel as though that turning pro thing, not here, but the turning pro thing is chucked around a bit too often, I reckon.
I think in the US with some of it, though, there is a pro license. So I think that also feeds into it.
I know, and that's what makes it kind of, because say with BMX, because like there's A pro and then double A pro, and double A pro is like the faster of the two. But I know a fair few guys who are like, oh yeah, I turned pro at 14, and it's like, you started racing A pro at 14, so did all of us, but we never got paid to ride.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just me being.
No, I agree.
No.
Pro is getting paid 100%.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people that aren't pros then.
But
there are a lot of people that aren't pros. Yeah,
Most of them race the World Cup, eh?
most people, and that's why I think the difference with privateer is I feel privateer may get a bit of cash here or there, but they're not getting a salary at all. I think
for
is
sure.
what
And then like
justifies privateer.
it does go both ways too, hey? Because again, like this might, like, it's a blurred line. And I don't care. Like, it's not like I lose sleep or anything about it, but it's just a funny kind of topic to discuss. Like, sometimes, not as often as what I was saying before with claiming like, oh, I turned pro, but I reckon sometimes it goes the other way too. Like, people are on like a borderline pro team, like it's like a satellite team, and they're still kind of claiming the privateer. And I'm like,
Yeah.
You're not really living out of a high ace. Like, you know.
Yeah. I feel there's a couple, I feel almost like, and this sounds mean, but like the privateer thing needs like the Centrelink means test as well. Like, like if you're got bulk cash, you're not really a privateer. Like, it sounds mean.
If you got a Rick Daddy, you're not a privateer.
Yeah. Like if you're staying in ACOM, like there'd just be a few things, you know what I mean? It's like staying in a nice hotel, tick. has replacement or spare parts, tick. Not living
has
out
chain
of line.
lube. Has chain lube.
Yeah. Pays
You're
for
not just
tolls,
spitting on it.
tick.
Yeah.
I should bring it in.
Fuck, too good. Too good.
That's way too good. How good's on privateers? How good's Joshy Frother been like this year? Honestly,
Yeah.
I think I messaged you, Darren, and said something. Not word for word, but something along the lines of like, characters are what makes this sport, and he's the biggest character of them all.
Yeah.
It took me a while to firstly, I only found him semi recently, but it took me a while to get him. Like, I kind of thought he was taking the piss, but I feel he's just genuinely stoked. Yeah. It's fucking rad.
I remember the first time I met him, Darren. Do you remember at Maydena, must have been 2021, at the Downhill Nationals, and it must have been just before it, they had the jam at the dirt jumps. It was kind of that dust jam.
21. Yeah.
That's
RockShox sponsored it.
That's right. That's the first time that I met him, because I think he was hanging out with Ronan Burke. But anyway, there was a couple of them, and they were doing like Froth the TV.
That's
and
right.
I didn't know who the hell he was, and he came up to me with like phone in the face, like, oh, like he is on Win TV or whatever. It's like full froth. And I was just like, what the fuck? I didn't even know what to say. He was asking about stems and stuff. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. It's like, oh, is that one you've got on your bike? I'm like, oh, yeah.
He's so good. So good to see.
That privateer program's sick too.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Well, you know Trev Burke?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's wrenching for him.
Oh, shit.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
Aussie guy.
Yeah, from Melbourne.
Yes.
Yeah. Melbourne.
That rings a bell.
Well, lives in Whistler.
Yeah.
Has lived in Whistler for quite some time, but yeah.
He's like the GT rep in Whistler and wrenched on all the bikes. And yeah. Rad dude.
Trevois.
What did you guys think of?
Jess is about to open the driveway, so I'm going to have to mute for 2 secs. Sorry.
That's all right.
God damn it, Jess. What do you guys think of the last downhill races, last couple? Can't remember if we talked about them or not.
I don't know when we last did one.
It was like Leger.
Yeah, we've skipped a couple though. It was good.
Yeah.
It was great seeing. Like to speak of the most recent, I guess it was great seeing Benoit get up. I think that was sick, particularly because it was a domination too, man. Like one quali, one semi, one final, which no one's done that this year, have they?
Yeah.
So I know it's a new format. I know it's a new format. Like people obviously have won quali and then gone on to win the final as well. But like even in the old format, like to do both was pretty impressive. But to do 3 in the new format is that much again, particularly because you've got like, essentially two big races on the one day. That's pretty impressive to back it up. And then, when you were looking at the times, it was like, he just kept backing it up, which is from an athletic point of view, that's real gnarly. And not just that, like from a psychological point of view too, just to like stay on it that much. Yeah.
I was surprised. Like I was surprised that someone did that because it's so much pressure the whole time. But I feel 100%. Like the Frenchies just deal with that so well that it might actually work in their favor compared to like everyone else. But that was pretty incredible. Like, yeah. And what was it? Was it 3 races? It was 3 races back to back, wasn't it? Like there was a lot we've missed since the last one.
We've kind of even lost track of, like it's so easy to remember the last one, but then going back, like it's kind of funny that in this day and age, like, there's so many events and whatever, I don't know about you guys, but it stays in my mind for so short of a time. Like it's only the last one that I can like,
I don't like that they were so close. Like I really liked when they were more separated. And I was kind of thinking about this the other day with like the old Clay Porter films, like we'd go back and document them, and there was kind of at least a bit of a break between them. I feel like that 3 weeks was just like it was kind of like a big break, and then 3 weeks. It was like I wanted more in the middle, and then it just kind of all went real quick. I don't know how it went for athletes, but I feel it's pretty brutal doing that much.
Yeah, it is. It's like I guess it could be kind of a good thing for some. Like if you're on a roll, it could probably be good. If you're not on a roll and you're in a bit of a slump, it could be not a good thing. I think I don't know who it was that was saying this, so might make a little bit less sense than otherwise could. But I reckon it was on an interview. But anyway, whoever it was saying about how like just how frequented events are now, and particularly like with social media and all that, where it's like events become a predecessor so fast, particularly because of social media too. Like thousands of posts come out from every one weekend. So as soon as there's another race, it's like the last race is just totally kind of forgotten about so quick. And I thought it was a really good point because there's just so much content. Like at least even like in years gone by, even if like races were fairly frequent, I guess the only way you could read about them was in magazines or DVDs or whatever. So like just the influx of information, I guess, probably made it feel like more of a whole series journey thing, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. I do. This is completely off the topic of tech, but like I do really want to see that kind of wrap up video thing like Clay used to do whenever come back for that purpose. Like I think everything media wise is so consumed so quickly, and as you said, because there's so much that's kind of there and disappears. It's all very quick media. But I'd love to see, some more stuff that kind of lives and breathes on there. Like I got a water bottle the other day from the Empire Boys, and there was an entree DVD, and I'm so keen to watch it. But I don't have a DVD player. But like, I remember that video, and I'm just like, fuck. Like, and I'm going to go on iTunes tonight and download a bunch. I used to have all the Clay stuff on my old account, so it's probably around. But like, I just think that's so worth it to actually look back. Because like, I think...
Where did they find all of these, though?
Yeah, I don't know. Sam must have had a box of them.
Because Moshi got one as well.
Yeah, I got one. We've all got them.
It's so good. It's just in at work, but just no one has a disk drive at work. But yeah, like I just, I think it's in like the Peter Sagan autobiography. He talks about like, in a race there's 1,000 stories. And I think that at every World Cup there is 1,000 stories, but we probably only see the ones we follow now. And I'd like to hear the stories of the people we don't.
Yeah, for sure. And and the other thing is too, it's like, how can I say this? I guess because of social media algorithms and all that type of stuff, it's like, the ones that you follow, you'll keep getting fed that information. And because it's so instantaneous, like it just updates so quick, and I don't know.
The other
what
thing
do you guys?
I didn't like was that Ludenville was EWS and downhill, and
dude, those rounds suck.
And it's like you can't follow anything.
Yeah, I hate the mixed rounds, and it sucks because I would say I'm probably more of a follower. I love World Cups, but I prefer the content that comes from enduros, and I think it's because like it was obviously EWS is owned by ESO or whatever before. They're trying to be like, oh, it's not our favorite child, and we're going to put all the effort into World Cup, which is fine. But the coverage of the EWS stuff sucks now. Like it's really shit. The highlights are kind of okay, and that's it. And it just seems like the forgotten child. Like it's really weird. It's too busy, and then everything it sounds like it's the pits are all separate, which I hate. Like I feel what they should do with ESO teams for next year, and I'd love this from a bike check and tech perspective as well. It's just like if you're a team, you have to have EDR and World Cup riders. I also feel within that they should have to have juniors, like female and male, to keep the sport alive and keep people flowing through. But everyone's then in the same pit for that weekend on the mixed rounds. And I think that would be so rad. like if you think about the Canyon team, if you have like Jesse and Troy and all the people there hanging out, it would just be sick, even from a tech perspective of having all the bikes. But then I just feel one wouldn't be like removed from the weekend.
Because I don't disagree with that at all. I think the only point that would make it hard, I guess, is just say like a satellite team or whatever coming in. Like just say that satellite team's focusing on downhill and only has a couple of riders.
Yeah.
They're not going to have a roster big enough to support sort of all the disciplines.
I mean, like the gold UCR teams, like the whatever.
Oh yes, factory, yeah. That's a good idea. I mean, do you think part of it, with it all being on one weekend, like let's say hypothetically you've got downhill, like XC and enduro, it's such a crammed thing. Whereas if you look at like just say for example a Crankworks, I mean not all Crankworks, but at least like a condensed Crankworks, like Innsbruck or whatever, starts on the Wednesday and runs all the way through to Sunday, so it's 5 days. I get like Whistler's like 10. Yeah, I don't know. Like I agree. Like I haven't really watched any enduro this year at all. Mainly just because I've been watching most of the downhill. But it almost seems that if they were to be doing the like if it's all under that one umbrella, it almost needs to be a more strung out festival type of schedule to me.
It seems to me like they've put them together like that for the live, like people being there for the weekend in Europe. You know what I mean? So it's like for them, it's perfect. It's amazing bang for the buck. They're there all weekend. They see 3 races and it's amazing. But I feel for coverage and internet and spreading it out, I think it's crap because, what was, 3 weeks potentially worth of racing to watch over 3 weekends is now one weekend. Where, and I think also with, and please weigh in on this too, but like I was pro the semi-final until recently and now I'm anti the semi-final. It just like dilutes it for me. There's just so many race runs to watch. You know what I mean? Like,
I can't watch the whole thing, hey?
No.
There's, I mean, it's such a multifaceted sort of topic. Like, I like it in some regards. It's pretty hectic, man. Like, if you're like, just say like Benoit, right? And that's why I guess I say like, just the like how difficult, not just physically but mentally, that would be to win 3, like to win them all. Quali, semi, final. Because it's so much racing to, and particularly. Yeah, if you end up making it through to the final, and particularly like just say like if you're a protected rider, that's kind of all well and good, but how difficult that would be. Like let's say you're like on the bubble, right? Like you're like 30th, so you're putting down a heater to get in. Like you've already put everything into that semi, and then you got to go back up. The other thing that I kind of found, because I was at Val de Sol this year watching, it was cool. Like it was a really cool vibe. So like I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with it, but it was a bit funny because I mean you got the semi, and so like essentially what a lot of people did on the semi was walk the track. So the track was lined with people walking down, but then almost it was a little bit anticlimactic. Because like that was kind of, everyone was on the track watching everyone come down. That was great. And then it kind of got to the end. And then I'm not saying necessarily me personally, but like I'm just picking up on kind of the vibe of the crowd. It was almost like a done deal. And then people are like, oh, that's right, we've got finals to come type of thing. And again, I'm not saying for me personally that was the case. I'm just picking up on the vibe of the crowd because a lot of people almost left and kind of, I don't know, like it. But then like for the last 10, 12 guys to come down, then obviously everyone flooded into the bottom to kind of to watch. But it was kind of a bit of a weird vibe because like, it's like at a World Cup finals, like it's like this is the run, like, the track's lined, whatever, everyone's down the bottom. But yeah, I don't know. Like I was only at that one this year, but that was at least kind of the vibe I picked up. It was a little bit kind of disconnected in that way. Like I kind of felt sorry for just say the first 15 guys of the final to drop because most people had kind of gone and got lunch or a coffee or whatever. But yeah, anyway.
Even to watch, like, yeah, I just find it hard. And it's probably just because the serotonin fires when you watch the first round and then it's all gone. You know what I mean? Like, but I wonder too, like, there's quite a few injuries this year. You know what I mean? Like between a semi-final and 3 races back to back, it's just like how much fatigue are you putting all these, girls and guys through for, I don't know. I get the semi-final and I feel it's a good answer to having more people quali because when it went from top 80 to top 60, I was Devo. So I want more people in the sport, not less. But I also do find that there needs to be a line between people having a crack and World Cup. It kind of does solve that, but it just makes for a very hectic day. But I don't know if it should be spread out to another day. I don't have an answer. I don't manage events, but yeah, I don't think it's great.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily against it either. I mean, it'd be really good to have an athlete's point of view, I guess, who's competing on the World Cup, get their sort of thoughts on it. But I don't necessarily have anything wrong with it per se, but I certainly think maybe it could be better, I think.
Did anyone see any cool tech stuff?
I was just going to say, before we move on to what we're actually here to talk about, one, I think coverage is suffering because they haven't got enough staff. Why the fuck is Rick McLaughlin have to do everything? Like,
dude, he would be tired.
Like, get Castle in on the fucking Enduro or get someone else to do the XC. Get some separate cameras. Not that hard. Like, I don't know.
How good was Quinn commentating? I know we talked about it on our chat, but that was good.
Best thing ever.
Aaron, that was honestly one of the best World Cups to ever watch.
Yeah.
And I'm not just echoing what everyone else is saying too, because a lot of people have been saying it, but honestly, that was fantastic.
I'm not even a Gwyn fan, like not in a mean way. I'm just not a big fan of that program, but it was still amazing. Like he's really good. He's obviously trained.
Yeah, for sure. I think this might sound just weird. So I've never really thought about it until now. So excuse the ignorance, but I do think for Aussies, mainly because we've grown up with American TV, I think there's something that we understand about an American accent commentating. I don't know if that's a weird thing to say. But the thing that I really enjoyed about him was because obviously he's a rider, he was very analytical in the descriptions he was giving for each race run, which was really good because I don't know about you guys, but the commentary, well, this like Rob Warner, I don't think anyone can beat Rob, but the commentary this year, I almost think it's a bit of a cookie cutter approach to every rider. It's just like it's just the same
fucking
spitball
garbage
for every rider, and I feel as though like you kind of need a little bit of inside knowledge of who those riders are to really appreciate it. Like anyone just watching that as totally a third person point of view. Yeah, whereas Aaron, like you could have been totally had nothing to do with the sport and come in and walked away and had learnt something about Aaron's commentating. Or learnt something about the rider from Aaron's commentating or learnt something about the sport. Because he was just very analytical about lines and, this happened there and whatnot, which was, I really enjoyed it.
I feel he appeases as well. Like, so semi-finals is free, I think, is it on YouTube? And then GCN Plus is the paid one. Yeah. So I have GCN Plus subscription, right? I'm sure you'd get a lot of people who sign up for like the Grand Tours and stuff for road who maybe dabble in a little bit of that. You know what I mean? Who would appreciate the Gwyn stuff. But I feel the core customer is like you, me, Dan, Mick. Like we want the better commentary. The Cedric stuff, not super into it. I'm sure I'll get better. I don't mean to sound like a hater, but I feel that, he's probably trying to be a bit like Rob Warner was, trying to be funny. Not Rob was funny. I think maybe that appeals to like the broader audience. Like maybe that's okay for the semi-final because it's on YouTube, and maybe that will drag other people in who aren't endemic to cycling, because it's not really, it's a bit more funny and loud and whatever. But I feel for like the paying customers of GCN Plus, like they want some analytical responses to things and reasoning and stories and, the stuff that makes a sport.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced Cedric's actually in there. I think they've just got a soundboard and Rick is just fucking pressing it and then just press the button and that's the reaction you get.
It'd be so hard though. Like it's not his English isn't his native tongue, and then I feel to like respond quickly to stuff if something's not your first language. I can't speak any languages, right? So if I tried to respond to anything, it would be like da 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 da. Like, so I'm not trying to throw shade in that respect, but I just don't know if he's. I can kind of see they've tried to go down a route, I think, to make another Rob Warner. You know what I mean? Like he's the party guy, he's fun, and he is that guy. He's always been that guy. But I don't think he's the next Rob Warner. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's still the riding guy. I think Rob Warner is the commentating guy who rides bike.
I think it's a really, and like I've never done any commentating in my life, so this is unsolicited, but like I think it's a hard line to dance between, because obviously mountain biking is a very dynamic sport. It's not like swimming or something. It's like, it's ever changing. Each run's going to be different and it's exciting. And I think there's a fine line between being excited and just kind of commentators talking over one another and it having no flow. I don't know what you think about that, but like that's what I think Rob was so good, was that, I mean, classic example, right? Like the Danny Hart run. Like I know that was Freecaster, but like Rob got so excited and was like, couldn't be more amped, but wasn't dominating in the conversation. Like it was still a free-flowing conversation in the booth. And I know that would have to be such a hard thing to do, but I think that's why it was so popular. It wasn't just like a shotgun approach and no articulation to the conversation. It was a conversation, but he was amped at the same time. Whereas this year, I'm not throwing shade, but I think maybe it's a little bit discontinuous this year. Like it's kind of just, like as it happens, it's just choppy, but.
Yeah, I think Rob genuinely likes commentating, and like, let's be honest, when he was on Freecaster, probably wasn't getting paid a lot and was probably doing it just because he loves the sport. And I don't know if he was ever like, I'm going to be a commentator. He was just a racing guy who liked World Cups, who commented on racing, was passionate about it. I don't know if it's the same case now when you try to sign up someone, you know what I mean? They're probably more trying to be a commentator, and that's why it doesn't deliver as well, because they're trying to be a commentator. They're not just commentating.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think the other thing too is like with Rob is he's genuinely a fan as well. Yeah. Like he's a rider. He likes talking, but he's genuinely a fan of what guys are doing. Like even like he surprised me a lot at Crankworks, because like he was even commentating he was like a what would you call it? Kind of like an anchor commentator, I guess you could say, like for speed and style and that, and like for slope style. And I'm like, that surprised me, because maybe it shouldn't have surprised me at all. But I was like, yeah, like I was saying, he's a fan. He's just stoked on people riding bikes, which I was pretty amped on.
Yeah, sick. Should we talk about tech, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Sure.
I wanted to say that the new Scott Gambler thing they put out with that prototype, like, I don't know if you guys saw it, where they had, like, they just drew dotted lines on it and they're like, steering angle, and then...
It was, it wasn't the Gambler, was it? It was the Enduro bike.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the Genius, whatever it is.
Yeah, that was sick, yeah.
And it's got, like, stiff bits for electronics and, head angle, and I thought
And
that
it
was
was like an over the shock thing. It was like needs to be bolder because obviously they bought bold, and that was the shock like tunnel design. I thought that was pretty cool. Like it was like so the gas e-bike kind of looked like that with all the shit everywhere, like drawn on it. But that was actually funny. Like, I thought that was pretty sick. Yeah, and it had some like pretty good results as well for a fresh bike.
Yeah, I don't know. I did.
I think the what's his name? Was it Dylan Levesque or maybe it was one of the guys on Scott? I think he got like 11th or 12th or something. Don't quote me on that, but it was like pretty decent result, brand new bike.
Actually,
it was crazy to see like having the performance fork and stuff on it was kind of weird. You know, I mean, it didn't have like the Kashima bits. It was kind of weird to see. Like it doesn't matter, but it was just interesting to see that. So yeah.
Actually saw something cool before we jumped on, but Gamux running, they have like solar panels and batteries and stuff in their pits. So they're pretty much self-sufficient.
That's cool.
So they don't have to worry about pinching power or anything. I'm like, why is no one else doing that?
No, there's a couple of guys doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel Fox needs to do it. I see Geordie having, I wouldn't say whinge because hopefully he listens and he won't get upset, but he always complains about the power not working. So maybe they need to get solar panels. I don't know if you can power two Adrianis on it, but you have a crack.
I think Geordie's just having a whinge, isn't he?
I know a couple of guys who have the solar panel set up. I guess particularly, I'm just trying to think, like Jack Redding and those guys, they have the solar panel set up. It's kind of cool.
Be cool from the teams to try and do more of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like you got big trucks and stuff. If people live in them, may as well.
Yeah. There wasn't like much new bike tech from what I can see.
Not really. There's obviously Boxer and Vivid. That was kind of it. There was some cool, and I shouldn't say it, there was some cool stuff on the dial video that they let slip, which was pretty cool as well on dampers.
I don't remember it.
Dampeners.
Dampeners, yeah. Yeah, I'm not going down that rabbit hole because it's not where I work and that would be wrong. But there was some pretty cool stuff talking about tunes and stuff in forks, and there was that Rad Shock as well, which was pretty cool. So I love that dialed series. Like that series is phenomenal. And I shouldn't say it because it's like the other brand, but it's just done so well.
No, say it as much as you want.
They've got to be the most, like one of the most watched things from the World Cup.
Yeah. It's such a fine line between like tech, tuning, race stuff, and funny, and it just seems to do it all. Like it's so digestible. I feel
it is. I feel as though the characters that you have on stuff like that is really important too.
Yeah.
And Schaefer and the guys that film it are fucking dialed. Like those intros they do for those things, that's like 2 or 3 hours work for some of them.
It's ridiculous, man. Like they turn that out so quick. Yeah.
And it's I'm swearing a lot today, but those guys are killing it. Been in northern South Australia for a bit too long today, I think. Talk about the new Vivid and Boxer and stuff. I don't think we have talked about it too much.
Yeah, Vivid's sick. We're chatting a little bit before you jumped on, Mick. And again, I just like to preface everything because I am completely biased for work Australia, but
that's fine. I'm biased with my own products too.
Yeah, perfect. It's a sick shop. I've been on it since December last year with a couple of different tunes in it. And it is weird in the sense that it is an air shock that feels like a coil that you can tune like an air shock. So it's soft off the top. It's got like a little kind of bulge on the outside for the first 10% of travel. So it bypasses the high-speed shim stack. So it's super soft off the top. Doesn't touch the low speed at all because it's kind of at the top, but maybe it has a bit of bypass. So there's like these little almost shims, but there's little valves that open up and allow the fluid to go through, which is pretty sweet. And so air shock can still add tokens, but has hydraulic bottom out as well, which I haven't used before. So I've had a coil shock with HPO. It's adjustable. But to dial it in on an air shock, but also have tokens means that you can kind of use the tokens more to suss out your mid-stroke. And then you can have the HBO to sort out your HBO. So on bikes in the past that I've had, especially when they're a bit linear, like the Levo, which had the Vivid on, I would normally overcompensate with tokens, and then it would be quite harsh at the end of the stroke. Or vice versa. Sometimes it was just sort out the stroke, and then the mid-stroke would be too supportive. You can have both adjustments on that, which is pretty rad. So it's super stiff. I was saying to Darren before, like I have a Zeb on the Levo. I had a Super Deluxe. Super Deluxe at no point was like the shock feels bad at all. It just felt like shock, but it balances the Zeb really well. So I don't know if I would necessarily pair that with a Lyric, but it made the back of the bike feel stiff like the front of the bike, which was sweet. And then new Boxer, I haven't ridden it. Triffin It Works taking me through it with teardown. It's got buttercups and all the stuff that the Boxer just didn't have yet. But the coolest thing I reckon from it, so it's got buttercups, but it's got on the stanchions, there's these little holes in the actual stanchion itself, and it allows fluid to migrate between the bushings, which is pretty cool. So they're super rounded because if you have anything that is like abrasive or sharp there, it'll nick them. So that's really, really cool. Haven't ridden it yet. Really want to, but don't have a downhill bike and don't need to buy a downhill bike. I'm
sure we can loan you a downhill bike if you want.
Dude, I want to get one. I just the amount of money I spent.
We can loan you one on it.
Yeah. Take my credit card. But the air chamber as well is like a tube and tube system, which is pretty sweet. So it's actually it's a 14 mil air shaft on it. It's a lot bigger, so it gives you a bigger negative at the bottom because this air goes into that air shaft. But then it's a tube in a tube to make the tube size smaller to get the spring rate right. So that was apparently the big thing, and kind of why it was black box for so long, was getting the spring rate right with the 38 mil tubes. But yeah, like Troy's been on that fork for a while. He was on it when I was at Maydena at some point, and
same.
It was ridiculous. Like he was just like, seeing him ride it was ridiculous, but seeing him ride on any fork would be ridiculous. You know what I mean? But he was the same kind of thing as what I was saying with the Vivid on the Levo. He's like, the fork now matches the bike in terms of stiffness. So like, he's like, I can just push this harder into things. So that was pretty cool. That was probably the big things from us. We've had a big year of launches this year, but that was pretty big.
And another one coming soon, by the looks of it, at some point. Yeah.
Probably. We're always, what is it? Like the official line, like we're constantly working on new products. So
always innovating.
I
could certainly imagine it with the Boxer. I mean, I was the same when I jumped on Fox, because I hadn't really spent much time on 40s at all, and it was the first thing I knew. Like just like noticed just how stiff the chassis was, and I really like that. Like, it was much appreciated, because any fork that I'd ridden up until then, not that I really noticed it until I got on them, but just how solid they were. I love those things.
It was nice to see that product in development for so long. I know to consumers that can be really frustrating sometimes. Like, it's like, I know the new fork's coming out because I can see it. And then like that one was black box for like kind of 2 years really, in different generations and variations. But at the same time, like, I think people should look at it as like, that's a good thing, because like everything gets worked out for every rider. You know what I mean? Like you've got different weight riders, different speed riders, everything. And that fork works quite well. If you make everything just wider, it can be too stiff.
It's tricky. Like I guess to second your point, and obviously WRP is a drop in the ocean to the size of a company like SRAM, but it's a hard line to dance with the giving sneak peeks of products to make people interested, and then also where people just start hassling you.
Yeah,
like it's a tricky line to dance, and like by no means I'm saying I've danced it perfectly, because you kind of as a company sort of getting like finding your feet that you've learned to dance at. But I can certainly see. Yeah, it's tricky. That's all I'm saying.
Like me with your hub. Always
good.
hassling you.
No, it's good. But yeah, like you say, like you want it to be right.
Yeah.
And like just say with like the boxer, it's like that they're not delaying. They're not delaying for any other reason than they're just perfecting it and getting it good.
And trying to get manufacturing and stuff up and running in those 2 years would have been an absolute minefield.
Jam's been pretty good with that, and I don't want to divulge too much because I don't know if it's my place, but like the production facilities are pretty amazing. But there's also the orders are made to order per like distributor or company. There's not like a big batch of stuff as well. It's a lot more nimble way to produce things, which is really good, and they're a lot more efficient. And there's quite a lot of batches made beforehand on the testing front, which is sick. Just kind of chatting about before. So like, we've got a global test writing team, and batches will be made effectively for that. You know what I mean? So it's a cool way to do it. But it's a lot more nimble than like, hey, we've just got this massive batch of stuff, and that's where it can take a lot of time, you know what I mean, to just keep producing the same thing over and over again in mass quantities. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm jealous of companies that size to be able to make batches of proto stuff. That's cool.
It's crazy, dude. Yeah, but it's cool to see. Like I was saying before, I'm luckily on that test program, so I kind of see a lot of it. It's pretty crazy. I was looking at the numbers today on transmission test data, which we'll end up sharing on an article I'm writing, but it's crazy the amount of real world testing we get on stuff too. Like mind-boggling amounts of hours and Ks and yeah.
Haven't you read the internet? You guys do no testing. You just like manufacture it on a computer and send it out there.
Yeah, and then we're just a marketing company. That NSMB was a really good article the other week. Was really good on share marketing in a pro sense, but yeah, I hear that line so much. Like, you guys are just a marketing company. You're like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, the company just sucks at marketing. Speaking of front end stuff, you've been using a dampener on your stem and forks, right, Mick?
I'm triggered already.
And you got a new one today too, which I saw, which I'm excited to hear.
Yeah.
Which one dampens your race place more?
How damp was their head tube?
That's got to go out for sure.
Explicit on Spotify.
Yeah. Just as long as you cut it out, but you're leaving that's definitely got to go out.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. Yes. No, I've only done 1 day on it.
Mm.
The new one or the overall?
No, the shower, the original one. So the one that I got today is a WP one. So WP is the suspension. Well, it's a spin-off of KTM. Like, WP is owned by the KTM group.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they do all the suspension for Husqvarna, KTM, Gas. So WP products. I mean, I've had WP products for quite a while on my motos.
Mm.
So I've always been a fan of their tech. I think they're a really good company. Well, I'm a big fan of KTM, like the KTM group. I think they're kind of innovators in that space and kind of a company that I've kind of looked up to since I was young. But anyway, I can give as much backstory as you like, I guess. But those steering dampers, they came out in the mid 2000s. Guys were on them in kind of the early 2000s. So Ricky Carmichael was on one when he was at Honda. Then Honda bought them out on their stock CRFs, like off the factory floor, for a few years, because what they were trying to achieve was a slightly steeper head angle. So the bike would steer very well, but of course, once they steepened the head angle, it was easy to get speed wobbles and whatever. So they came stock for many years. And a lot of people have been running them in professional motocross and supercross. And the funny thing is, I'm kind of learning a lot as I'm going too, because as soon as like you can read articles and whatever. It's a little bit like we were saying with kind of like the World Cup and that type of stuff before, but like you can read as many articles and whatever as you want, but then as soon as you post something, you'll have guys hit you up being like, oh, you know, I worked at HRC Honda or this or that or the rest of it, and you find out a lot of stuff. So again, without naming any names or anything like that, what was funny was like factory KTM, Husqvarna, whatever, were actually running those shower dampers for quite some years, like professional motocross guys. Obviously, they weren't allowed to say anything because anyone under the KTM umbrella is WP. So they were kind of running a blacked out shower damper, or at least sort of really well hidden, so no one could see that it was a shower damper. But because so many guys have ran them, there's aftermarket tuning kits for them. You can put in different weight oils, so they come stock with a 5-weight. Right. You can go 10, 15, 20 if you want, to get different steering resistances and whatever. Anyway, the patent for that product was up a few years ago. And then, of course, because so many riders under the KTM umbrella were riding a sort of hidden shower damper, was WP came out with their own version, which has only come out in the last little while. And I got one today. And what was funny was, like I was saying, because the shower one's so rebuildable, you can run different oils, whatever. From what I've come to learn, there was kind of like a bandwidth of a setting that a lot of the guys in professional motocross and supercross liked out of the shower damper. So what WP was, because the shower, so they made two different versions, 20 mil, 24 mil. The 20 mil was the lightest damping, and that's what I have. A lot of the professional guys were on the 24 to give it a bit more resistance, and they would also retune them and run a heavier weight oil. So when WP
length or shaft width?
Shaft diameter.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, like piston diameter.
Yeah.
And when WP came to make their own, they pretty well made the optimized version of like what most guys were on the aftermarket version of the shower. Because the shower damper that I tested on Sunday, it's a very light tune, like so light, like you can just squeeze in your finger. It's got quite a large bandwidth of clicks, but between each click doesn't really do that much. Like it does a little bit, but not. But the WP is insane. Like I can actually send you guys a video, but like on the lighter setting, it's quite light. And on the heavier setting, like I was pulling as hard as I could and I could hardly open it back up. So I'm really like same mounting brackets and all that, which is really handy. But yeah, I'm really keen to put some time on the WP one and have a bit of a play around. But
how does it work internally? Is it like, or is it orifice tuned or like shim stack tuned?
Shim stack.
Yeah, okay. So the piston obviously has the shims and that's what's moving in. And then you can adjust the shims as well as the oil, or they just tune with oil?
So you can adjust both. So I've never pulled one apart myself. I've watched a couple of videos on rebuilding them. So yeah, you can do both. You can rebuild the shim stack and you can change the way the oil as well. Yeah, I watched a really good video the other day. I think it might have been on Vital of them rebuilding because they were putting in, because Race Tech, like Race Tech do, I guess, like make aftermarket suspension products, and they make a gold valve kit for that shower damper, which I thought was really cool. Actually, well, it must have been on the Race Tech website, and they went through like, how you rebuild one, and it was really cool. They do little custom shim stack kits for them and all that, which is apparently they're a real prick to bleed.
So my next thing is going to be like, how does it rebuild? Like, is there a port that you thread a syringe into, or do you do an oil bath thing?
No. So the best way to do it, according to a guy who worked at HRC Honda, is like, dude, the best way to do it is honestly just fill a bucket full of the oil weight that you want, like drain the whole oil out, of course, and just submerge the whole thing in an oil bath. Yeah. Just cycle the piston until it gets all the air out, and good to go.
Yeah, that's what a lot of, I think Olin's used to run as well. They used to do a lot of stuff at Oil Bar.
Oh, yeah.
On the cycling side, yeah, it is a little bit messy, but as long as you have especially that thing's small enough, you get a container you can seal. You know what I mean? You can just keep using it again. It's not the end of the world, but like, big things are a pain in the ass. But yeah, it's it's kind of like vacuum bleeding it really at the end of the day. So
yeah, it's an area that I'm happy to admit I'm a bit naive in. I've dabbled in a little bit, but yeah, I'm certainly not an expert with the internals of suspension and whatnot. But I am really keen actually to pull that shower damper apart and have a bit of a look. But the difference was profound, and I'm not saying that because I'm trying to meet my own narrative. Well, I'm hoping I'm not saying that to try to meet my own narrative anyway. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
How did it feel? Like why did you enjoy it?
Because for the first time of a riding, and this is how they feel on a moto too, but for the first time, and I've ridden them on motos, but like for the first time on a bicycle, the front end actually feels radially attached to the chassis. Whereas at the moment, like on a typical bike, because your headset is linear in its resistance, the fork can just spin on the bearings as easy from 90 degrees to 180 as 0 to 90, if that makes sense. Like it's whatever. And I think, or at least I do sometimes, you underestimate how in tune your body is or can become to the machine that you're training on or whatever. And I noticed just how quickly your body came in tune with having that on the front of the bike. And like, because I've been thinking about it during the week, kind of reflecting on it. And when you steer, particularly if you're going fast in like rough stuff, have you ridden up at King Lake much, Lockie?
No, I've shuttled a lot of people up there, but I've never actually ridden it myself. But I know the track.
Yep. So I really like the track because I know it's pretty fast. And at the moment, like it was pretty warm on the weekend, so it was pretty loose. Traditionally speak, like just personal, like I normally prefer loamy stuff than kind of loose dry. But say in loose dry stuff, like you don't really know where your front wheel is a lot of the time, or at least I feel as though a lot of the time I don't really trust the front wheel. Like I don't really know where it is. And for the same reason I was saying before, where your front, like traditionally speaking, because your steer is just running on bearings, is, like traditionally, where your front wheel is because it's position dependent. So you know how far you're turning your bars, kind of in your mind, like you're like, okay, yeah, my bars are turning this much type of thing. And that's kind of what gives you your sense of where your front wheel is, and obviously the feedback through the bike of where your front wheel is. But with the damper on, instead of being position sensitive, it's resistance sensitive. So it's like, from the feedback from your bars that like it's pushing against that kind of wall of damping. And it's like you learn very quickly what that means, if that makes sense. Like instead of just being position sensitive, it's more position derived. It's more force derived, if that makes sense. Because essentially, like, like you could be front washing and you don't necessarily even realize like how far the bars are twisted sort of sideways, because it's just a derivative of kind of pushing back through the front wheel. Whereas, that's kind of the best way I can, at this stage anyway, kind of articulate is it's more, instead of being derived from just a position or angle of where your bars are, you've actually got that resistive force. So you'll learn very quickly, like, oh, yep, this is where my front wheel is because I'm pushing against that amount of, resistance. And I mean, it was kind of multifaceted in the fact that, like, yeah, that was cool. And then personally, like, I was riding a lot more relaxed because I knew the front wasn't going to tuck as easy. So I wasn't, again, like, I don't necessarily like riding in dry, dusty conditions as much as I like riding in loamy stuff. Like, I always feel like I'm anticipating the front washing. So I ride tight and I'm probably a little bit too much on the brakes and whatever, where I was more willing to let it go and I was willing to kind of just get off the brakes a little bit. And well, the best, I guess, analogy is just ride a little bit looser, because I knew if the front went that it wasn't just going to tuck. Like, I knew that I was actually going to feel that, again, without being sort of position derived, I knew I was going to feel the resistance kind of kick in. Yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of this positive feedback loop. Anyway, I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to putting kind of more time on it, and because it's so easy to take on and off. Yeah, I'm keen to sort of do I did back to back, but I didn't do like on off. I was off, and then I put it on, and I was like, whoa, that's pretty good. And then we were kind of done for the day. But particularly like if you've got access to a chairlift or whatever, so runs are easy to do. And it's small enough you can just put it in your pocket. So I'd be intrigued to do, back to back to back to back.
I'll come out one day and show you if you want. We'd definitely do that.
For sure.
Is it
a spare Trinos?
When you're using it on the moto, does it help with the rear steer as well? Because obviously you got the throttle and you can lean it in, you can kind of throttle on and it stops the bars from crossing up as much. Did you find the rear wheel tracking on your pushy better? Or was it all front end?
No, I only noticed all front end. I think because on a pushy you don't have an engine. So like any acceleration other than gravity is just derived from you pedaling. Whereas on a moto, I guess because you've got internal combustion, like you can get a drift under acceleration on a moto. So I think, like, just say for instance on a moto, it's quite common that you've got opposite lock. So you're like turning left, say, and the back wheel stepping out to the right. So you're on opposite lock. Whereas on a mountain bike, that really never happens.
Unless you're Samuel.
Samuel. It looks like on the Canyon, you get a lot. So that Canyon thing looks quite interesting as well. It's something I'd love to try to stick on one. Obviously, it's the opposite idea to the damper because it's a spring. But it sounds like that influences a lot of rearward movement. Like Will from Flow did a really good piece on it. And it's just got it in the works down and it's showing you like moving the bars and how the rear moves. But it looks like that system has a lot of input on the rear on a bike, which was interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, like I should say I haven't really spent enough time on it to really notice the influence if it does on the rear. Not that necessarily I could tell. But yeah, anyway, I think the big thing with the damper opposed to, say, the spring is, and I think this might be a little bit as to why, a little bit like a spring, well, exactly like a spring in your suspension, I guess. Like, irrespective of the speed on that spring, its resistive force is going to be the same. Whereas with the damper, it's totally the opposite. So like under a low speed, depending on how you have it tuned, but like under a low speed is the damper has not much resistance at all. Whereas under high speed, so if your front wheel gets sucked into a rock or like it starts to wash or something like that, it's got quite a bit more resistance. And I think that's probably why it might not influence the rear as much, is because, say, you're just turning normally or whatever, it's not so much noticeable.
And it doesn't suck the bars back either, does it? Like, or does it naturally do that because it's kind of like less pressurized state? I don't know. I honestly don't know much about them. I'm just interested to see it on that bike.
So no, it doesn't necessarily suck the bars back. No.
Yeah. Because that's where that KISS system sucks them back, which I think it's a cool system, but at the same route, I've always said this when I taught Stu, is springs are dumb in the sense that like they have no control over themselves, and you put something into it, then they kick it back. Whereas dampers are smart, and that's why you need dampers in your fork, and that's why most forks will at least have rebound. You know what I mean? That's where I think the damper makes more sense.
Well, and that's exactly right, and like you spot on the money, and that's why like to expand on that, like you just said, like if anything, you should have rebound, because essentially any coil spring or any purely elastic member for that reason, but like just say in the sense of like a coil spring follows Hooke's law, and what Hooke's law states, of course you have losses in the real world because you have losses to heat and to noise and all that type of stuff. But assuming you have zero losses and you're in a vacuum, is a spring will oscillate forever. So just say on your canyon, if you had no losses and you're in a vacuum and you twisted the bars to one side and then let it go, it means the bars would just continuously forever go side to side to side to side. And we all know, I think that's why you at least have, say, rebound damping control, is to bring it back to rest. And well, yeah, case closed, I guess. But yeah.
I feel like the KISS system is trying to bring the bars back from an oh fuck moment, whereas the damper is trying to prevent the oh fuck moment from the start.
You're right. And like, I'm not having a go at the KISS system at all. I think they're probably developed for two totally separate markets is my way of reading it.
Yeah, I appreciate what they're doing with that. I don't think it's a bad thing. Just as I don't think damper's a bad thing, or not having damper's a bad thing. Like everything is good. I think that system is probably going to be better for new cyclists. I think it's also going to help people climb a lot, which I think is beneficial because climbing's the worst bit of mountain biking for a lot of people. Where it's a case of like you need to put weight on the back wheel but not have too much on the front. So I think there's benefits in it. Some of the guys I've spoken to at the top who have tried it actually think there's some merit in it for higher speed stuff as well. But yeah, I just think the damper's cool because like the Hopi dampers years and years and years and years ago, flat made around them. So they've interested me since then. But I think the tuning concept behind it and having now heard that, I think makes more sense because everyone's different, right? Like from the bar width to the way you move your arms, like I think dialing it makes way more sense as opposed to just tensioning a spring.
Sure. And like I was saying, like I'm happy to admit, like I'm not a suspension tuner guy, although I'd like to be. But the thing that kind of excites me with the dampers that I'm mucking around with at least is just how tunable they are. Like, I mean, clickers is a one thing. Like you can dial in the feel of the front end with clickers, and everyone's fairly familiar with clickers. So that's cool. But from a total shim stack rebuilding oil weight thing, and talking to a few guys that have worked with them a lot on moto, and like I'm talking like from a professional level, is that I reckon that's really cool. And people who are smarter than me in regards to like building suspension products, I think could build a steering damper that was perfectly tuned to their rider's needs.
Are there specific tunes for them, or is it like go play with shims? Like,
so, all right. So, yes and well, yeah. So when the showers that came out from stock, the 20 and the 24 mil, didn't come with aftermarket shim stacks that you could buy.
Yeah.
The WP doesn't come with aftermarket shim stacks. A lot of people, like the go-to with the showers, was running different weight of oils. Yeah. And then, Race Tech came out with their shim stack kits. So I might be wrong on this, but I think you can have 3 different compression and 3 different rebound independently, like different tunes.
Yeah.
And they have their gold valve piston. So I'm not exactly sure what the piston gives you, whether it's high flow. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But I guess, that like there are aftermarket kits out there with multiple shim stack options. So they essentially give you like a little mini spreadsheet and say, yep, for a light compression tune up to a heavy compression tune. So that's kind of pretty neat that I guess you don't need to go down the route of like making your own or like sourcing sort of custom shims. Like you can go straight to Race Tech and buy a kit, which is pretty cool.
That's what I think you want. Like, I've never done just making a custom shim tune because I don't own a shock dyno. Like, it's a very big thing to do. But if there's someone who makes it and there's tuning like spreadsheets, that's freaking sick.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, like I say, I watched the tutorial and it's like maybe 10, 15 minutes, I guess, video. And it's all pretty, I mean, like you would have seen with suspension locky, but like they've marked it all out pretty cool. Like they've got the little spreadsheets. Yep, get the 0.1 shim, stack it with this, whatever, and that's your light tune. If you want the heavy tune, stack it this way. It's very kind of self-explanatory. Like I was saying, I'm not a suspension tuner, and I would have no hesitation at tackling the Race Tech. Like
doing tune is one of the most relaxing things ever because it's just you. You put some music on and a set of verniers, and you just measure things and just chuck it on a T-handle Allen key. Like I don't know, it's just really like it's never a job that you do when you're doing other shifts, like any other bike service. You know what I mean? It's like the shock's there, the bench is clean. I've got like a real nice drawer of shims, which are all marked anyway, so it's not a pain in the dick. I just get the tubs out and off you go. But I don't know, it's a very therapeutic job, so I feel like you'll have a lot of fun doing that.
Sure. Yeah.
Which system is going to be best for people with baskets on the handlebars, do you reckon?
Neither.
It actually interferes with said basket.
It just reminds me of that. I don't know if you've ever seen them, Mick, but the old classic cruisers, like from back in the day, they had one a spring that attached from the down tube.
Oh, yeah.
To the brake boss. Yeah. And that's because baskets would flop the front wheel around.
Are you going to make a mount, Mick, to mount that onto a single crown fork?
Sure. Yeah. I worked on that over the weekend, actually.
Okay.
It's just as easy to a single crown as it is to a dual crown.
Yeah.
If anything, actually easier, to be frank, because the problem with a dual crown is that you've got the top crown to contend with. So you have to make sure it's offset in a way the top crown doesn't run into the damper. Whereas obviously with a single crown, all you've got to worry about is if the stem clears, which it is because it's going to hang below it. If the stem clears, then you're all good.
Can I get one in with my free hub order as well? Is that all right?
Yeah, of course you can. What do you run, a 4456?
Which bike?
156, I think. Yeah, I think. What do you think? Which bike? Actually, I got a few bikes.
You just got another new one. Like
I got 3 bikes, dude. That's not that many bikes.
Sorry, frames?
That's including a frame.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, a Nomad, FSS, ZFS, ZHT, and ZHT's in the frame because the wheels are on the joint.
Because the other ones,
Oh, sorry, yeah, and I'm getting an e-bike back soon, which will be good. Yeah, one's in the shop.
Yeah, very good. Well, let me know what headset you've got, and then that'll be easiest.
Yeah, and I'll try and track down one of those shuttles because I really want to try that. That'd be sick.
Yeah, let me know because like at the moment I've got 2 dampers. But yeah, anyway. I just want another thing to tinker with, dude. I'm getting bored in the evenings. I need things to pull apart. I don't have any shuttles to pull apart. I'll let you do all the tuning and then tell me what you like.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Next, I wanted to actually talk about Lockie's new bike again. Wouldn't be an episode without talking about it. How are those flex days feeling?
Flex days are interesting. Hey, yeah. That is an XC bike, the Cervelo, and it also has a 66.6 degree head angle, which is fucking rad.
That's sick.
But Yeah, it's interesting, right? So that bike, I don't have a remote in it. I probably should if I was going to race XC properly, but it's like real soft off the top, which I was not expecting from a 120 mil travel bike with the Sid Lux, like those into little. But then it just ramps up perfectly. I still haven't bottomed it out yet, which is crazy. But it recovers really, really well. And I think part of that is due to the flex stay, potentially. Now, I don't have data on that because I don't have telemetry things. But you effectively have another spring in the system, right? And that also recoils in itself. So it makes the bike feel really active. I kind of, for some reason, I thought in my head that the flex day would feel quite dead because it's not a pivot, it's not a bearing, and it's not smooth. But obviously with carbon, you can tune the flex on it, the layup of it. So that's where it surprised me that it's so supple into the stroke because obviously the flex is there to flex, quite smoothly. It's not abrupt. But then I feel it's like the recovery on it. Like I'm not super fast on the rebound, but it seems to get back into usable travel really quickly. And I think it's obviously an inline shock, but I think part of that is also to do with having that carbon spring recoiling as well, as opposed to the shock having to do it. So it's really interesting. The bike that I would absolutely love to ride to compare it is, which I never thought I'd say it, but there's a Maydena, the 160, but that is a 160 mil travel flex day bike. And I would absolutely love
scary
to.
As fuck.
It is, but I would like to try it because, like, Maydena makes a lot of bikes, right? So they're not going to make something that doesn't work. But I just love to see how it works on that. You know what I mean? So yeah. But yeah, the flex day is cool. I just thought it would be a lot more harsh, and that bike just is the complete opposite of that, which is crazy. It definitely is a 120 mil travel bike, but the travel is very usable. It's very active, and you can put it into a lot of situations that a 120 bike probably shouldn't be in.
Theoretically, if there's a flex stay, there should be no friction, right?
Yeah.
So it should move.
I suppose, but like if you think about a spring would have breakaway on it. Potentially.
Springs don't have breakaway, do they?
But carbon would. To have the stiffness it would have to, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Coil springs don't have breakaway because of their steel nature and ring design. And I could be wrong, but I would have thought that to get a carbon tube moving, it would be some form of breakaway. But maybe there isn't.
I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not a carbon guy. I 100% agree with what you're saying, Lockie. Like from an unsolicited point of view, I think that you would be right in what you're saying because it is a spring in its character, like it's an elastic body. I mean, I don't think someone will probably prove me wrong on this, but like I don't think it's going to be linear in its nature. Like for that. Yeah, I don't know. I think friction is probably the wrong word, Darren. It's more resistive force to flex. I'm really not an expert on that topic at all. Like, the whole idea of a flex day from an engineering point of view, I'm too naive from that type of knowledge to really even get my head around it. Like, obviously I can see how it works, but like the whole idea of doing it freaks me out.
It kind of. Oh, there you go.
Is it technically a leaf spring?
Yeah, so that's what I've read on it. Is that it technically works like a leaf spring?
Yeah, or a torsion bar, like it's which like it's obviously been done. I'm also out of car. Like I'm just not. I've never really worked that much in carbon. Like, obviously you want your layups and like they're all over that. But it's pretty gnarly concept.
I kind of thought that it was. I think in my head too, I thought that was purely done for weight, and then because it was done for weight, the suspension would, be taken away from the performance. But because they saved 250 grams through not having bearings and shit in the back, so I kind of didn't think there'd be a performance gain. But I think from the way that works, I think a lot of the way that bike feels is due to that, which is it's really interesting. Like I'm genuinely surprised at how it works, and I can see why so many bikes do use that system now. Like there was kind of like, was it maybe the first year of COVID when like every second XC bike was going to a flex day?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The interesting thing with it as well is the brake mount, firstly, isn't flat mount, which is amazing. Mountain bikes that use flat mounts are terrible. But it's actually an independent brace that goes from the dropout up to the rear of the brake, which I think aids in it not being super loud and noisy, because it's quite quiet on the rear brake, whereas my hardtail was quite loud, like resonating through the frame. But yeah, that's the only reason I can think they've gone with that, because it's only the rear mount that's independent, and it sits like through the through axle, almost like a UDH kind of design. Yeah, which is cool. But yeah, it's sick. I like it. I've kind of built it up really. I was meant to be doing cape to cape, but my partner got pneumonia, so he's not doing it. So now there's a Lake Mountain KOM that I want to try and go for on it in summer. So that's what it'll be for.
I don't think they could mount it the same as your hardtail, because as that seat stay flexed, it would pull the brake apart.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
No, that would be suboptimal.
How'd you choose what eyes to put on it? Is there
Well,
like a process?
Yeah, there is. So this is actually that's it oily. So funny. Well, I've got googly eyes now as well.
Sick.
But yeah. Then I just line them up. So the next sheet's actually coloured eyes, which is cool.
I like
they do.
I like the third down on the left.
Of the coloured or
the coloured?
Head down on my left. Or you like the angry ones?
Yeah. I think that would suit the.
I'll cut you up some. Send them over. But with the Trinity suit, I reckon the suit Trinity would be like the purple eyes with the eyelashes.
No, what I wanted to do on the Trinity, which I'm still actually keen on doing, like the P51 Mustang, like the shark mouth?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do that off the head tube. I reckon that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be sick. Yeah.
Like
you've got a new bike,
down tube.
Darren, as well. Sorry, I didn't cut you off there. But
I do have a new bike.
We never speak about your new bike.
It's because I don't get one every week.
Well, how is it?
It's good. It's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And the fact I wanted something that was a bit more pedally, kind of inspired by your stuff with XC bikes and stuff.
One bad thing about the Fuel EX from anyone I know who's ridden it, it's quite a few people through SRAM and through like media people I've chatted to, like not one bad thing, which is pretty sick.
I was the same, and I'm like, this is all just marketing bullshit. Like I know how it goes. I'm obviously supported by Trek. I'm going to say good things and I'll highlight whatever, but I can't think. I've only ridden it like 50 Ks in the last few days, but like, yeah, it just does everything, and I can't see where it's not. Obviously, like a high speed downhill track or something, it's not going to. But for everything in Adelaide and more, it's out punches so hard.
Yeah.
And it's like you're... Sorry?
I was just going to say, to their credit, I think Trek do a very good job of that in their, like, for every range of bike they've got, to be frank. Like, all of their bikes that I've ever ridden anyway, like, yeah, it's always done everything well. Like, I haven't necessarily faulted anything.
I think they've really dialed in the suspension stuff too lately, which is cool, because that's got the flip chip at the bottom as well for progression and stuff, like downhill bike, doesn't it?
Yeah. So flip chip at the bottom.
That's rad. I love that adjustment for people, because obviously people want either linear or progressive. But then also like now not having the full floater and having that rear shock mount, the lower shock mount fix, I think is really good. Like they kind of learned from that.
100%.
They kind of tailored those bikes more, I think, to performance. They can be adjusted around as opposed to them being tailored to like the mass market and dumbing it down. But yeah, I've heard amazing things. One of the guys at work just got the Fuel EXE. He's in the same boat. He's like, this thing's fucking incredible.
That's why I went for this.
Buddy Darren, I have a Ticket S. I love my Ticket S.
They're sick. I want one. But I mean, the head angles adjustment's good as well. I think it's like 63 and a bit.
Oh, it's got the cup things in it as well?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I haven't played with it because, they don't have the top one at the moment for some reason. I'm just trying to find.
Is it a drop in or a press in?
Press in, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You still need to tap it out.
Yeah, but I kind of like that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, I don't hate that after some experiences lately, but it is fun to play with that stuff. It is very fun.
So the slackest is 63.5.
Yeah, fuck.
And then the steepest you can have it is 66.
Wow. That's steep.
So, because it's got the minnow link as well. So so you got 2 settings for that, and then you got 3 settings for the head angle. And then if you go mullet, it can...
You can go mullet on that?
Yeah, yep. You have to...
That's awesome.
Put a 160 fork on it and run it in the high position.
That's fine.
But yeah, so I think it's something cool. It's something I want to play with. Like put a mullet on it, make it a bigger bike, and then have a 29-inch trail bike that's super lightweight. Like it can do everything. So yeah, I'm stoked on it, and it's got me keen on riding.
That's good.
Shimano stuff's not bad. Yeah, 100%. Shimano stuff's not bad. Brakes are pretty good for what the money is. Like they're probably the standout component.
What do you got? Shimano brakes?
Yeah, just the SLX though. And
yeah, good.
Dude, I don't like the way they feel, but they're fucking powerful.
That's all that matters. I don't really care how they feel as long as they've got power.
They're a little bitey, so I might put scented in it and see how that goes. But yeah.
So they come with like a resin pad stock.
Yep, which means they come with a resin rotor.
Oh no, that's the trap. Yeah.
And then the other really, really annoying thing is that it comes with a Shimano clamp-on derailleur. Clamp-on shifter.
Yeah.
Which is separate from the brake lever.
Sure.
Oh, and then you got to buy the iSpec thing or whatever.
You got to buy a whole shifter. You can't just bolt the iSpec thing onto the current shifter.
It's crazy at like an OE level that surely the clamp one would be cheaper. I mean, surely the clamp one would be more expensive with more material. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like it would be probably, $3 cheaper per unit or something. You know what I mean? Like crazy. And it would just add up. But yeah, that's annoying.
This is little things, but like doesn't matter. The bike's fun. Yeah. It's sick. Suspension, it's going to take a while, but that's all right. Yeah.
That's the longest thing with any new bike for me is getting the suspension set up. Like, I think the Nomad took me like a month. And that was with riding Saturday, Sunday a lot. But once you get it set up, then it's sweet. You know what I mean? Especially on those kind of bikes that do everything. Because you're not trying to set it up for one place. It's setting up to do everything. So that's like pretty easy to get it going. Pretty good.
It's a bit frustrating. I can't trust the fork internals and I got to rebuild it. Like just to make sure that air spring's fine. Because that's real choppy. But I'll get there.
Just chuck a hairdryer on it and it can melt out.
Oh, man. I really don't want to have to do anything. I was trying to figure out if there was a way for me to take the air spring out without having to take the lulls off. But it doesn't. It doesn't work.
No.
Yeah.
Sick. No, I'm stoked you got a new bike once. It's good.
I'm riding. It's good. It's weird. Yeah. Gonna get 20Ks in tomorrow. We're sick.
Fuck yeah.
Servicing stuff. You want to speak about that as we're coming into the
I don't want to rant for too long. And this also comes a bit from work on an article I'm writing. And it sounds like real, I don't know, like it probably sounded lame saying it because like, oh, you're getting your bike out and it's getting warm. Why don't you service your suspension? But like, I was kind of writing a paragraph for an article at the moment and I just think servicing gets a really, it's like a dirty word for a lot of people. And it's probably come from, there was probably an expensive bill at some point from a shop, you know what I mean? And that may have come probably through a lack of service. Hopefully not through the shop, but maybe someone stitched you up, but hopefully not. But people just have bad connotations with service, and it's kind of looked as like a bad thing, like naughty. You haven't serviced your thing, like that's bad. And I think when people look at, say, something like replacing their tires, like that's seen as a good thing. It's not like, oh, I need to buy another tire. It's like, oh, I'm going to a race. I'm going to put some fresh tires on because I get the most amount of grip from those tires, and that's the smart thing to do because I'm going away for that trip. You see that a lot at events, but then people won't service their fork or shock. If you want to increase your traction and control when you're racing, the best thing is going to be servicing your fork and shock as well as those new tires. And that kind of servicing is super quick and easy to do at home. It probably takes a bit of practice, but it's not like me and Nick were talking about taking shims apart. Like a lower leg service and an air can service is relatively easy. There's a lot of really good YouTube videos on how to do it, and you'll save yourself a bunch of cash, and you just need to oil some things and on the air can replace a couple of seals. Like, it's really easy, but there's a tangible benefit and a performance increase that you'll get from that. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't see with suspension service. They think they're just doing it to make the thing last longer. But I see it all the time at events. I fork come over and I'm doing lower leg service, and it's someone probably hasn't serviced it in 100 hours. You might do a full rebuild, whatever. You write down the pressure, you put the exact same pressure back in, and the person every time is like, this fork's too soft. And you're like, nah, the pressure's right. It's just that you were so used to running it so harsh because, you've either got mayonnaise and lower legs because water's, suspended in oil.
Hey, you got to get those carbs in, baby.
Yeah. And it's thick, or stuff's migrated into the negative spring or whatever it is. So, with that suspension service, like, it's not really the case of like, hey, it's getting warm, go service suspension. Just get in the habit of doing it routinely. And if you've got events coming up, do it before the events, and you will have a lot of benefits from it. I see it all the time with, I do suspension setup for people as well, and people are happy to go throw down some really good caching in their fork setup. I'll always tell you to get service for it first. And that's going to be more cost than what it is for me doing the setup, but you'll get way more out of it being serviced and then setting it up than you will be from just setting it up, because the thing's probably harsh and turn to shit. So yeah, that was kind of the rant with it. Like, just get in the habit of doing it regularly. If you use Strava, just keep in mind how many hours you're doing on things. The boys that I ride with down here, and I know they listen to this, so they'll probably hear me throwing shade and talk about it on the weekend when it's out. But, like, we ride probably 3 to 4 hours Saturday and Sunday, So I've done 6 weeks on the Nomad, and that thing ticked over 56 hours on the weekend. So I had to do a low leg service. It was just under 2 months, you know what I mean? So it's not so how long you've had the bike for, it's how much riding time you're doing. So you have Strava, just keep in mind where you're at with your hours. It's 50 hours for most lower leg services. Some brands are different, but, it's not a hard service. So just get in the habit of doing it. And if you're going to a race, just do it for the race. You'll benefit from it as much as you will from tires. Do
you think, and like, I'm speaking of this sympathetic to people kind of in this situation, because I know, like, I've been in this situation. So do you think a lot of it is to do with, like, speaking from myself here, like, almost like to replace tires, like, I don't know, obviously it's a very easy job, whatever. I think there is something to do, even with like what Darren was saying before about, say, being on a new sort of suspension componentry. Do you reckon there is some kind of, what's the right word, some low level sort of anxiety surrounding doing suspension service yourself? And I think, like, I will say that's what I'm a big fan of with what you're doing, Lockie, with sort of like how-to videos and whatever, and teaching people along that, because I know that was with me. Like, for those that don't know, I guess, like, I got into mountain biking pretty late, like 5.5, 6 years ago. And for me, a lot of it was, a bit of, I don't know. Yeah, probably, a bit of anxiety to pull the legs off and have a look and replace stuff that needed replacing or whatever. And I think I don't know whether I'm speaking for anyone other than myself, but I think that's probably got a little bit to do with it as well. Anyway.
It's one of the few things on the bike you can't see. So like I get it all this time in the shop, right? Dad comes in, kid's bike. I fix the gears for you. The screws are loose, but now I can't use any of the gears because they could see the screws. They could see they weren't all the way in the right spot for some reason, and they were the limit screws, and they've just wound the limits in. And they could see the thing, but you never really see Dad's pull bar suspension forks. And I think it's because you can't see in either of the items, right? You don't really know what's going on in there. And I think for a lot of people, that's quite terrifying. There's also with suspension, there's air and scary things that can explode and all of that. There's also a lot of like magical things that happen in there with dampers and oils and all that kind of stuff. When you get down to doing air springs and dampers, there's still just a method to them, and the manuals online for any brands are amazing, but you do need to go find them. And I think reading those first would probably help with a bit of that hesitancy, because you'd be like, oh, this actually isn't that bad. The videos and stuff online are incredible for that too. They seem daunting, but they're really not. And, you know, like a lower leg service, you don't even need to take the fork off the bike. I'd pat my mate over here the other week when we were doing his fork. Just chatting probably took me 15 minutes to do. And I've got the stuff around here, but in terms of tooling that you need for that, it's like a 5mm Allen key, a hammer, a 2.5mm Allen key, and a piece of PVC pipe, some rags, and slick oleum and lower leg oil. Like it's nothing crazy. It's nothing more different than like your toolbox for a race or whatever.
For sure. And the reason I bring it up, and I hope someone can learn maybe something from this, or even if it's just an encouragement to do it. Like just as much to pull it apart, but like I was kind of scared that I was going to fuck something, put it back together. And I remember, like this is years ago now, like I wasn't into riding that long, but I got a friend of mine to show me. I was like, can we do a lower leg service? And then I was like profoundly surprised at how easy it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, for lack of a better term, I know. Then I wanted to go fixing everything because I was like, oh.
Yeah. I got to set a lower leg timing up here.
Speaking out loud, I think that's maybe what it is. People are a bit afraid of bucking their forks.
Oh, totally. I get it. Like, that's a set of lowers for people who are watching. If you're not watching, then
what are they off pipes?
No, these are totem lowers. These are sick. But at the end of the day, all you're doing is removing 2 5mm bolts that sit in the bottom of these foot nuts, and then just tapping out a press fit, and then the rest is cleaning. Sure. The only thing to be conscious of with suspension is just don't have sharp things around that are going to touch anything in there, which you shouldn't anyway. But like if it's something that you've like listened to this, you're like, I should do that, go watch some YouTube videos on how easy it is. If that does completely petrify you, there's a lot of really good shops that can do it for you as well. But if it's something you're interested in, I would definitely look at buying some of the right oil and grease, and it's a really quick and easy job to do. That's going to save yourself a lot of cash. Like if you're like I ride a ridiculous amount, so I'm probably not the best example, but say I just rode 4 hours a week, which I feel a lot of people who probably listen do, or who are like enduro people throughout the whole week. That's 4 50-hour services a year. You know what I mean? And that fourth one's a 200-hour build because you're at the 200-hour point. That's a lot of servicing. You know what I mean? I think it's a lot more than what people actually do. I think people will be lucky to do one suspension service a year, to be honest.
Definitely.
If that. So that's the thing. I'm not even speaking of the narrative of stuff wearing out. That's what I'm trying to like get away from. It's like, let's not have like a negative story around service. Like let's have a positive service. The positive service is your things will perform better and they'll be less sticky, which is why you bought the most expensive for your bike that you could get. So it was softer and more supple and fun.
And it just lasts longer.
And then it lasts longer too. You know what I mean? But like, that's the thing. I just don't want to be that negative guy who's like, oh, it's going to wear, you don't do this, it's bad. So anyway, that's my rant.
And it goes for everything on your bike, right?
100%. And if anyone does have any questions about suspension service too, like please feel free to slide into either the podcast account or my account's DMs, because I'll happily answer any of that stuff. Like I would like to see more people service their stuff because you'll enjoy your bike more.
Yeah, definitely message Lockie.
Yeah, don't message me. That message.
Yeah. Yeah, steel wool is great for inside in lowers. Let's go.
Deep clean.
One thing I've noticed that people should check more often, and I don't know why this is happening more recently, but they are tubeless tape.
Yeah. So I've had this rant at a lot of people too lately. What happened to, first of all, and I've actually,
tape.
There's an article coming out in 2 weeks that I've written for Zip on this with tape. But this next point isn't that. What happened to, I swear this was the norm with tubeless, and maybe I'm just in the wrong. You would do the the cloth tape over the spoke holes, and then you do the tubeless tape. So
Rim
then when you broke a
profile's got
spoke,
different.
yeah, but I still do it. I have the thin tape that goes over, like the cloth tape, the thin like thickness that goes over the holes, and then the plastic rim tape goes over the top. Because if I break a spoke, then the spoke doesn't go through the rim tape. And I've had 4 friends in the last 4 weeks have a spoke go through the rim tape.
But even on your reserves?
I don't have reserve enduro wheels. I don't do that on the XC bike because that's an XC bike and it came with it. But on the enduro bike, that's got like Zeffel cloth tape, then plastic tape. I don't know. Maybe it's just because that's what I got told to do years and years ago. But yeah.
Yeah, I see that. I've personally just been running like the plasticky tape for just the DT stuff. Goes all right.
Some of the rim profiles, like if you ran that cloth tape and then the tape, you would never get a downhill tire on.
Yeah, okay.
Like
they're tight. Like they are tight on that. Like I did a little reel last night and I'm there like getting on, but by hand. But yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was a thing. Maybe it's not. I'm not definitely not saying it's right, but that tape does need to be replaced. I would check it every time you replace your tire at least.
Yeah.
And it costs nothing. It comes in bulk rolls. Like, yeah.
Even just 2 layers of the stuff is better than one.
Yeah.
Like it's, yeah.
Where do you start your tape? This is a good one, actually.
Left-hand side of the valve hole and then finish it on the right-hand side, for example.
Yeah, okay. See, I always start at the opposite side of the valve. Yeah, opposite side of the, no.
He's confused.
Now I've confused myself.
He asked the question and he doesn't know the answer to his own question.
No, I was asking what everyone does for it.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I do. Yeah. No. I see what you're explaining on each side of the hole. No, I do the same thing. That is fine.
Yeah, so it overlaps the valve.
Yeah.
The hole twice. Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah. I just, someone the other day, I think it's just a factory and I was looking at it and I was like, this is all wrong. And then I was like, the person in the factory clearly wouldn't care. But it wasn't also doubled up properly. It kind of finished halfway around a lap. But yeah.
Are you like burning the valve hole into the tape?
Oh, no, I shank it with this little guy, which is like not even
sharpened
straight.
toothbrush. And
this was actually a nice little EVT little one I bought, but I just wrecked it on something lately. But
straight
I just shank it with that and then put the valve in. Like the fat involved with that, which I'm not getting into that debate, is not worth it. Like
so no filing, nothing.
There's
like
a rubber gasket seal on the tubeless valve. If there's any overlap, it doesn't matter. But if you want to do that and you sleep better at night, then please do it. But I don't care. Maybe if I got paid by the hour, it'd be different. I don't know.
Anything else you can add to stuff you need a service, or is it mainly that?
The only other thing I did a reel of is piston massages, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is that reel I made went ridiculously. It was viewed by a shitload of people. But if you have spongy brakes, a
bit of ASMR in there.
I love that shit.
It was a good massage to be on film. Rocky.
Relaxing massage. But the
definitely had a happy ending at the end of that one. I was stoked. Yeah.
The piston massage on any brake. If you've got spongy brakes, there's heaps of stuff it could potentially, but that's usually the one, especially if the spongy brake came from after a riding weekend because your pistons aren't moving evenly. You need to be careful on those Shimanos because of the ceramic pistons if they have those. Because they can be troublesome. But it's just a case of like if the pistons move all the way out, you expand them onto something else, and give them a clean. The big point I want to make here is that the pistons don't need lubricating. I had so many questions on this, like what do you lubricate them with? I just sprayed isopropyl alcohol on them. They just get cleaned. There is fluid in the brakes that lubricates the pistons. You don't need to put anything on the outside. Okay. If you put on the outside, the problem is over time, there's a piston seal gland. So in the calipers where the pistons sit, rubber seal, that rubber seal, when you push the brake flexes and it flexes into that gland. So it's a little bit of extra space. If you put greases and stuff in there that especially can get debris, you're effectively going to fill them up and then you don't get as much piston seal movement. But that's a good one. I won't go into too much detail with it, but that's a good job to just do regularly for brake maintenance. Your brakes will feel way better and your pistons will move evenly. And the way to check is just look, and if the pistons aren't clamping, one's just pushing, that's bad. Or if your rotor's twisting.
And shops should be doing that anyway, right? Like
100%. And it's a funny one too. Like I feel a lot of people probably don't take their brakes into shops for that. But I think as soon as people hear spongy and brake, they think bleed.
No, it's warranty, right?
Yeah, or warranty. But like people just jumped onto bleed. And it's like dot systems need, like you can cook dot fluid, which is different. But dot fluid should, as long as you got the right rotor size, you're not overheating it, dot fluid should last you a year. Okay. Mineral oil is usually 2. Most brands are 2 years on replacing mineral oil as well. So you still need to replace the oil at some point, but it probably lasts longer than what people think. You know what I mean? If there was air in the system, it would have usually had made itself pretty clear it's there pretty quick. You know what I mean? Like, which is the case of like the brake pulls to the bar when it's up. You know what I mean? So the air thing will show itself very, very quickly. If it's still spongy and you're not getting the pulling to the bar thing, something else is going on. A lot of time, it's just the pistons need to be aligned and the caliper needs to be aligned. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
yep.
But there's regular maintenance with your brakes. It's not just a bleed.
I actually have a new set of brakes on Ye Trinity. I've got a set of Radix, which are very, very powerful.
What are they?
They are a New Zealand company. I seen them a couple of years ago. They come out with the 3D printed calipers. They're at 2018 Crankworks Rotorua. So they were pretty cool. It was kind of just like a I think they actually did it as part of their university. It was printed titanium calipers. But now they make just really beautifully machined billet alloy brakes. And they are the most powerful brakes I've ever had in my life. And I'm just a big one of power. Like, I just want powerful brakes.
A dot or mineral?
Both.
You can choose, but mine are set up as mineral.
I thought that was sick. Like, they don't pigeonhole it. Like, you just change the seals, right? Like, it has different hose.
You can change the seals. They're really good. I like them a lot. I like them a lot. I've got them paired with TRP 220 rotors, so I've got big boy rotors on them. I do think that does a bit, like 2.3 thick 220 rotors do quite a bit. I've also felt a couple of people I know have been running Saint brakes with the same rotors, like TRP 220 2.3s, and they feel pretty good. But these Radix feel very nice, and they're very beautifully machined too. So.
They're $1,200.
They are very expensive. Yeah.
You can just get your yacht over there, Lockie.
$1,200. They look sick. I don't know anything about them. Wow, that's Kiwi dollars though. So that does.
Yeah, it's a bit cheaper.
A bit better, yeah. It uses like a bleeding edge thing too. Yeah, fuck, this would be cool.
Yeah, you use a bleeding edge. So yeah,
man, that's going to get bad with people using the wrong fluid in them. But anyway, that's the
well,
shot problem.
yeah.
Well, they're
So
different
yeah, you have to.
colors, different colored kits, right? From Shrimp.
Yeah, but it looks like it's the same. So from us, they're different bleed kits with different seals. But if the bleeding edge thing's the same on both brakes, then the standard SRAM bleeding edge, which is dot, would fit in that. So if someone
Yes,
put
you're
the
right.
dot
So
syringe in,
you can. So you're right, Lockie. Like if you weren't aware, you could put in a dot bleeding edge tool into a brake that's got mineral fluid in it. So
if people got lost and were like figured out that it was mineral and used their dot syringe and that syringe has had dot in it on the seals, then they'll also blow the seal out on the bleed kit without maybe fucking the brake. Just from that too. So don't mix your fluids, kids.
No, do not.
What's a set of trick stuff brakes worth?
About the same.
That's what I was thinking.
To be honest, what is a set of codes worth? Because I should actually know that, but I don't deal in.
Can I have a guess?
Anymore.
Pair of codes like 750.
I would have thought about that. Yeah, about 750, 800.
890, I reckon, off the top of my head for a pair.
About $1,000 for a pair of code ultimates.
Really?
Retail. Yeah.
There you go. Oh,
fair enough.
If anyone's in the market for a set of brakes, I do like the Radic. They're very beautiful brakes. I obviously like well-machined stuff, but they're really nice.
They got a nice website. Not that I should talk them up, but the website actually looks nice.
You can talk up whoever you want when it comes to website design.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like a good website. Yeah.
For a generic Squarespace-y, they've done really well.
But I feel with a lot of those brands, like they're tech guys, and then it's just like that. It's just like all this.
Yeah.
It's just it's great.
Yeah, generally speaking, he's our best marketers. That's
that WRP website.
Yeah, man, it's a piece of shit. Talking about websites just on Squarespace.
It's going to go to his Matt Jones fucking Squarespace ads.
Like someone asked me about my logo the other day. They're like, "Oh, where'd you get your logo, mate?" I'm like, I'm happy for people to know this too. I really don't mind. I'm like, literally, I had to come up for a logo. I went on to Paint, and I went down the scroll, and I'm like, Tahoma looks good. And then I put it on bold text. I'm like, there's the WRP logo.
That's fucking awesome. I love that.
It took me all about that long as well. And
it's funny, changed. You could have gone and paid some big marketing company to do it, and then it probably would have been the same. It would have cost you a couple grand.
Well, look, right, I wanted something that I could engrave on parts without too much faff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, yeah. It gets the message across, right?
Yeah, what else do you need? Yeah. Yeah, I got one I'm staring at a stem right now. It does engrave real good.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Stem boy.
Fancy boy.
Yeah. I don't know what other stuff there is in the tech world. I've been running a thrust bearing on my coil. That's worked really nice.
Oh, yeah. I think I messaged you about that. I'm a big fan of those on coils if there's not a plastic sleeve or something there to help with twisting. Big fan.
Did you say you ran them?
Yeah, when we did green to gold, we ran them because the pivots had this real weird kind of knock to them. Just kind of at the end, they'd kind of top out a little bit. And I think part of it was due to the spring bind. And yeah, they felt the riders liked them, and I'd ridden them a little bit as well. I don't really know how to describe it. It wasn't a 10%er. It was definitely a small gain. But it just made the springs feel a bit smoother, I would say, is the best way
more
to
supple,
describe it.
Found.
Yeah, and obviously because it allows the twisting. That was sick. Just needed a bit of cleaning, I suppose. I wouldn't say servicing, just to stay on top of them and the grease. We just ran them with just with slick honey, which made them real nice. But yeah, I'm a big fan of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about making, because I've like, yeah, obviously I buy the actual thrust bearing, but like the discs I make, and I was going to make a couple that were actually sealed.
Mm.
I don't know what you think about that, but because I think if it was a sealed unit, I think it would obviously have more longevity. But.
Yeah, I think so. So we had the K9 ones, which I don't think that brand's around anymore. They were kind of hard to get. And I remember, I think I ordered about 10 and hang on to them for quite a few years, actually. They weren't fully sealed with the seal, but they were sealed enough that it was just downhill and, washing bikes all the time.
Sure.
So you just take them off when you clean the bike and just put a bit of slick down there and it was fine. But I think a seal thing would make sense. Like, I don't think having a seal there would be the end of the world. Like, it's not so much that it needs to have absolutely zero force to get it moving. It's more the case of it needs to be able to move. And I'm sure the forces when it is twisting, if it's going to affect the suspension, must be fairly strong. So I'd say a sealed unit makes sense.
I'm not sure if you guys follow Darren from Push.
I was just looking to see if he's got because I thought he had a thrust bearing on his.
They don't run a thrust bearing. They run a homopolymer, so it's just a very low friction bushing, I guess you could say. So it acts the same way as a seal. But he only the other day he put up a video and he put the shock in the dyno and indicated it with a mark and did, I don't know how many cycles, 50, 100, whatever, and actually showed the spring indexing around. And I thought that was super interesting because, I mean, that was like I knew it was doing it, but like it was very interesting to actually show people.
Yeah, that was meant. Yeah, and I've got a bunch of those red. I've always used those red things for the same reason from spring decks. I just got a stash of them at some point.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit, but yeah, that was good. They did one on their spring today too, which was really cool because I actually never knew why.
Oh, yeah, the barrel spring.
Yeah, the ODB or whatever, and it used the same clip in that as well. But yeah, that was really really interesting.
That was interesting. Yeah, I looked at the same thing. I guess, for those that don't know what we're talking about, essentially, the reason why they use like a bulged spring is because their argument, I guess, which makes sense, is that like a purely cylindrical spring can kind of buckle in the middle. There's nothing stopping it kind of, not remaining as a parallelogram.
That's apparently a big problem with a lot of the progressive springs on the market as well, is it allows the spring. A lot of the progressive springs, in theory, work from one end to the other, so path of least resistance and then progress up. But when there is flex and movement that comes into play with that as well, different parts of the springs can be moving at different times, which kind of gives you like this spring rate that's not really progressive, like an air spring. And I've definitely had progressive springs in the past that just didn't feel great. And I think that was probably why.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, there's certainly people in the bike sphere at the moment that are doing really cool stuff. But I'm a big fan of that type of stuff. So.
Yeah, I think where bike tech is and bikes at the moment is fucking awesome. Like, I feel it's got the weird, crazy techie shit of like the 2000s, but then we've got really nice, consistent stuff that people can buy. Whereas in the 2000s, there was cool stuff, but everything broke.
Yeah, and I think I've said this before, and when I said it, it just kind of came out of nowhere. But then I was like, that kind of maybe sounded half smart. I don't know what you think about this, Lockie, but like my 2 cents is, like the reason I think why there was so much like prototype and development and all that type of crap in like just say late 90s, early 2000s, whatever, was because everything broke. So like the only reason for people, say on like the World Cup, to actually be competitive was to have custom stuff. And but then the bikes got so good, started to get good, is that the companies put a lot of energy on, let's just make something that doesn't break. And then over the last, like just say over 15-year span, say up until like the mid-teens, stuff just got every year so much better. And now we've reached a point where the general base bikes are so damn good now. Like if you went out and bought like a base spec Giant Rain or, whatever, like that's a fantastic bike. compared to what only was available a few years ago. Whereas now I think because the base level stuff has got so good, now it's kind of reintroduced a platform for the customer stuff to come back in a lot. That's just my 2 cents.
No, I agree. Like it's kind of the other way around to where it was, which I think's good. It's hard to buy a bad bike. Like, might not be the right brand to talk, but you know, it's looking today on Flow. Like they're reviewing a Polygon that was like $3,500. Comes with a Zeb and a Super Deluxe. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
wow. So it's got $3,500 worth of suspension on it.
It's crazy, you know what I mean? Like there's that stuff exists, and exactly like you said, and the giant reins and all of that. Like I think now there's affordable bikes that people can get good stuff that's consistent and rides well for a value for money. But then there is this super bougie stuff now as well, which is cool, as opposed to when it was only the super bougie shit that worked, which was hard for the sport. You know what I mean? So I think we're in a really good place
for sure. And I think like it comes and goes with a lot of stuff, I reckon, like that, like other industries, like even though not necessarily an expert on it, like with maybe bikes, but like even the car industry stuff, right? Like just say like there was so much like prototyping as far as like hot rodding and stuff going on in say like the 60s, but the general car that you could just buy commercially was nowhere near what it is now. Whereas But the point is now you've got like the whole hypercar stuff going on, and like to a less, like, you know, obviously a lesser degree, but I almost feel as though that's kind of a little bit like the bike industry. Like, for lack of a better term, you've got companies that exist in the bike realm that are kind of like hyper bikes. You know, like Antidote, like Active5, whatever, which they're kind of like hyper bikes compared, like when you think about what you compare to only a decade ago.
Did you see how much that Polygon weighs?
No, I honestly, I do actually watch it because I think there's a video. I saw it at like 5 o'clock this Arvo. But yeah.
It's a very lightweight 18.3 kilos.
So crazy though. Like I literally just weighed that before because I just put Max's tires back on it, and that was 16.2 with water bottle cage and water bottle and shit in it.
I reckon common style metas would have to be about that. I reckon
like that's 2 kilos. I don't know what that is as a percentage, but compared to the percentage of what that's worth compared to that Polygon, that's not bad.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because yours is what, like 60 grand these days in today's money for a Santa Cruz Nomad?
Yeah. That thing, I don't know, like having been the guy who just said I don't know what the code breaks are worth, which is terrible retail. I obviously get very good prices on things, but it's still the most expensive bike. Oh, except for the e-bike. It's definitely the most expensive analog bike I've bought. But I'm happy with it. But yeah, it's definitely a shitload more than the Polygon, and retail it would be, a lot.
Yeah, I don't want to drag it on too much longer because you guys are good.
That's who it was.
It was on my Facebook and I couldn't remember who had a birthday. Happy birthday, mate.
It was I. And I ticked into another realm. I'm 30 now.
Oh, you're in Masters. Fuck yeah. Yeah, buddy.
I'm not in Masters. Nah.
Yeah, you are. Masters 1 is from 30 onwards. Fucking A. Yeah, I'm 33 and I've been racing Masters 1 for 3 years. or vets, depending on the race. But yeah.
Yeah.
Masters Crankworks. Fuck yeah.
Nah, boy.
Masters World Champs. Cairns.
Staying elite.
Masters World Champs? Oh, yeah, I think Cairns. Yeah, that's going to be sick.
Pretty good.
There we go, guys. Another episode of Beyond the Tape Tech Talk. Hope you really enjoyed that. We talked a bunch of crap about a bunch of things. And yeah, really fun chat. Really interesting. And as per usual, delving into Mick and Lockie's minds is a great journey. Thanks to our supporters of this podcast: Trek Bikes Australia, Frank Mountain Bike Apparel, Shred Bike Care, Fist Handwear, Taylor Trails, Taz, Lead Out Sports, Dirt Surfer, Mudguards, Cat That Cat, and Oakley Australia. if you want to let those guys know that the podcast directed you there, then use Beyond Tape 10, Beyond the Tape, or Beyond Tape 15. I think one of those codes is going to work at one of the stores. It's a bit of a lucky dip, and I like to leave you guys hanging. Anyway, if you don't have any cash and don't want to buy anything or anything at the moment because it's pretty tough going, trust me, I know. Just share the podcast around with your mates on Instagram. Tell your mum, tell your nana, tell your dog, tell your favourite bird. Tell whoever about the potty and let them know, share it around. Don't forget to review it on any of the channels that you listen to, and yeah, support it that way. That's it for that one. We've got another rad one coming up soon with old mate Mike Ross, good friend of ours. So if you've got any questions for him, jump over to Insta and send us a message. Until the next one, just go out and have a bunch of fun.